Hare Krishna. Welcome to Krishna Book Part 2. We're on Class 5, Part 2. We're going to start on Chapter 39. Akrura just arrived in Vrindavan after an eventful journey and his prayers, and he saw Krishna and Balaram, and the word is he might be trying to take Krishna away. So stay tuned. We'll start with some kirtan.
Hey, welcome, sweet souls. Invitation to turn your phone on silent, to close your email, to do whatever you need to do to give your full attention here now. If you chose to be here, then give yourself that gift of presence to be here. So let's take a clearing breath first. Inhale through your nose, fill up, sip the breath in, belly expands, rib wide, and fill. Open your mouth, exhale, let it all go. We start with our opening prayers, this invocation, this calling out to all of our teachers, the acharyas, the saintly beings who have gifted us, really gifted us this torchlight of knowledge. And in so doing, they've removed the darkness of ignorance. Ignorance meaning not knowing truth. We honor all spiritual teachers, of all spiritual lineages, of all spiritual paths. All are welcome here. Take a deep breath in. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Panchakopatrubhyascha Vipasindhuveva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Srivasade Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Shri Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki, Shri Shri Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Shri Shri Gaura Nittai ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Dharmapatya Sangha and Beyond ki, Shastra Study Group ki, Hari 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 Bol. Yeah, most definitely.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjashrakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarupyascha Kripasantubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna. Jai. Great to be back. We had some really nice reflections in the WhatsApp. Allison, I like your points. You made a few different points.
I know, I had so many thoughts.
Yeah, let's hear it. I heard one I appreciated was you were talking about how there's always demons.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that?
Just that throughout life, everything is always going to be coming at us.
Yeah.
Whether it's a bull, a horse, a snake, lust, greed, we're just full of temptations.
Right.
And if we could just, like we always say, keep the main thing, the main thing, and it just helped me have so much more perspective.
Yeah.
Facing all these things.
Internal and external. You know, at the beginning of the Krishna book, we heard about how the earth personified approached Brahma and prayed that there's so much demoniac influence and it's really difficult for everybody here. And Brahma prayed and the Lord appeared. And of course, when Hiranyakashipu was on the planet, Nrsingadev came, you know, and it's like sometimes you may think, oh, you know, like where is Krishna in this situation? With what's happening externally, there's so much chaos in this situation. And it's like, well, that's actually how it's always been. The Bhagavatam points out in this age and in other ages, it's not just because you're chanting Hare Krishna or you're a devotee, you're not going to go through some chaos in the world. You know, when Hiranyakashipu was around, even Narada Muni had to bend his knee temporarily. He had to kind of bow and scrape a little bit. And so there may be these external things. What to speak of, as you point out, lust, anger, greed, uncontrolled mind, you know, jealousy, the poison of our own false ego in so many different ways that we're fighting with. And Krishna is always the shelter, one way or another. Like the devotees were being harassed by some demoniac influences externally, or whether they're being harassed by their own mind. They're always just like, oh, Krishna. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to zoom out and say, like, am I really angry? Am I really what's really important here now? Situation.
Yeah. And that it's not just me. Like this is everybody all the time. It's not a unique situation. And you said you had another reflection?
Sorry, you don't have my glasses, but I did write down. So in Canto 10:36-16, I just thought it was fascinating that Krishna had to atone for killing people. And I just didn't remember ever reading that in any of our stories, like that Krishna would have to atone for something. So I don't know, that just seemed huge.
Yeah. That when he kills the bull demon, the Krishna, Radharani is not very pleased with him. And she says, you've become impure. Actually, Krishna can't become impure. But But that's part of the rasa. So yeah, Arishtasura, the bull demon. So as part of the lila to create rasa, she says, well, you've killed a cow. And he said, well, kill the cow. I mean, there's a demon who took a bull form. And she said, I know, but you still killed the cow. And so he undergoes the ritual atonement. It's actually just, it's the teasing. It's lovers teasing. Krishna is like the source of everything. For him, there is no question of impurity because he is himself the totality of everything. But sometimes it's to set an example, like Krishna will have a spiritual master. We'll hear about that in a few chapters. He actually goes to school. And it's like, well, what need does the Supreme Personality of Godhead have for a teacher? He doesn't. But there's rasa there. He gets to be a student. And also he gets to show us, like, hey, don't think you're such a big shot, because even Krishna, even Lord Chaitanya, anybody, they'll themselves take a teacher. As he says in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, I don't have any duty to perform. But if I didn't perform my duties in the world, people would follow in my footsteps and there'd be just chaos. So to set an example, I do it. And you should also set an example, even if you're a liberated soul. So there's that principle. And there's also the principle of Krishna puts himself in different situations in the world for rasa, whether it's to be teased by his girlfriend, because there's a certain kind of fun in that, or it's to be a humble student in the house of his spiritual master, because why can't God experience that if he wants to, with his pure devotee as a teacher, and he can be the student? So, yeah.
We did for his devotees too.
He does it for his devotees. He does it to create beautiful pastimes that they can talk about. Like, why would Krishna need to be chastised by a mother? But it's so much fun. And we're still talking about it thousands of years later. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share any reflections that stood out that you shared, or you had, or you read in the thread from the week?
I was going to share that, we were talking about how all the demons, and also sort of building off of what Allison said, are all the demons are anartas, and they're all meant to get us to the point of saying, Krishna, I need help, right? Which is part of our japa meditations, part of our prayer. And in T&T Lock this week, or last week, we were talking about, we watched a little video that Martine showed us, and one of the parts was around, it's like Krishna talking to a little girl, and she's like, I pray and I'm talking to you, and then how come I don't hear you? Sometimes I don't hear you answering that call of Krishna, I need help.
Right.
And Krishna said in the video that, when you don't hear me, like, I am there, and when you don't hear me, it's when I'm giving you the opportunity to grow. Okay? And part of killing these demons and releasing these anartas is that we have to have that space to realize that they're there, and then to do our own internal work to cleanse and purify and move beyond them, right? And that Krishna's not going to just say, okay, magic wand, now that's gone.
Right.
We actually have to.
Because how would that help us?
Because we wouldn't learn that.
Yeah. It's like if we were pampered like that,
right,
we would become entitled and we'd become very soft and never actually make any movement toward him.
Right.
And that movement is actually where the growth is. That's where the relationship really thickens. Because then you're actually choosing him. Then you're actually seeing, like, oh, this is what it's like to live without Krishna in my false ego. And I choose Krishna. And that's a dynamic, free choice that he can't actually force us to make a free choice. That's the point. That's the thing about free choices. Is like, so sometimes letting us sit with the consequences of our actions temporarily can give us the opportunity to do something that he can't create with his magic wand, which is, are you up, Krishna? I actually choose you. I've looked at it and I've thought about it, and I really, I actually choose you now. Like this much more. Good point. I also like what, I don't think she's on the call, but Julia was saying in the WhatsApp about how there's this way in which, Kamsa is so Krishna conscious, and he knew that Krishna was going to kill him because there was this prophecy that somehow everybody knew was going to be true, and he accepted it, and he was in bitter resistance for his whole life. But there is this way in which that dynamic of seeing that was actually the very same as what we have, is that we actually see the writings on the wall, and Krishna is trying to take me away from my own false ego. He's trying to lift me up out of this. And I can either surrender to it, or I can try and fight it. And one is what Kamsa did. And it's actually a bitter experience. And the other one is actually, what all the devotees, Kunti did, Draupadi did, Arjuna, Prabhupada, the gopis, they're just sweet surrender. So I was thinking about a story that my Guru Maharaj Vaisheshika Guru told. It happened to him. He was cleaning a house. He had opened the windows and he was like, dusting and cleaning out, like spring cleaning type of thing, big top-down cleaning of the house. And a bird flew in through the window. And the bird got into the little window, big house. As soon as it's there, doesn't know how to get out. And he notices it and he knows, well, this bird doesn't belong here. It's never going to be happy here. It has to go outside. So what happens? He starts walking toward the bird. And what does the bird think? Oh no, you're trying to kill me. So it goes from one room to another room to another room. And then he's just like patiently trying to get him to go from room to room to room to get out. And finally he opens enough windows, corners it. The bird lands. At this point, the bird is in an absolute terror, How did I end up here? Who is this demon trying to kill me? Lands on the sill of the window, turns back and looks at him. And he said with his eyes, you tried to kill me, and now I'm getting out of here. And then he had this visceral feeling, the bird flew away out the window. And he had this visceral feeling like, oh my God, I'm the bird. Krishna's opening all these windows, and I'm here just sitting complaining, why? Why are you doing this to me, Krishna? Why are you putting me in such chaos? It's like, well, you're the one who flew in the house. You're never going to be happy here. You're a fish out of water. You're a bird in a house. It's never going to work for you. And he's just trying to open all these windows. And we're sitting here like, oh my God, why? And he realized that that's me in his humility. So we may be actually like imitating Kamsa, fearing the liberating hand of Krishna, instead of seeing it as like, this isn't an enemy. This isn't torture or happenstance or chaos or randomness. This is Krishna. This is the loving embrace of Krishna. And it's taking me somewhere I can't predict. It's taking me somewhere bigger and better than here. And I can receive that instead of fighting it and being in an absolute psychotic, tizzy over it. I thought that was very visceral because, what does that bird know? And it may have seen him as an enemy, but he was actually the best friend. We can see Krishna like that. Kamsa did. He saw him as an enemy. And Krishna he's nobody's enemy. He's actually everybody's friend. Haribol. Any more reflections before we jump into chapter 39?
I have a couple.
Jai, go ahead.
Okay. Let me get there. Two things. One, I really liked Julia's at the end of everything she said. She says it feels like medicine, whatever way you cut it. I thought that was really a good line. Yeah. That was just like it's a cure for.
Yeah, he's medicine for the people like Kamsa, and he's medicine for the devotees. Krishna is actually all good. It's like sometimes it's bitter medicine, sometimes it's sweet medicine, but it's always medicine.
I just liked, I had never heard it that way. I just really liked that. And also I liked Allison's, one cannot go to Vrindavan by purchasing a ticket. And I love that line. And I didn't remember on the bus either that you did tell us about, that we read chapter 38.
Yeah, we read it.
Want me to read it with the microphone?
I didn't know it was chapter 30. And when I was reading it, I was so surprised at how it was so violent. It's like, oh my God. I guess I just didn't remember that. So that was interesting, I thought.
Well, that's the nature of our little minds. So we get to keep hearing.
Yeah.
You can hear it again a week from now and find something fresh and new.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the violence?
The violence. What did you mean by the violence? Kelly's up.
The way he got so aggressive and got, I mean, he needed to kill the demons. I understand that.
Oh, right.
Right. but
not so much in that chapter. That specific chapter was Akrura just thinking about how he's going to see Krishna. Krishna didn't kill any demons, but in general, that's happening.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And well, because it's another example of how it's medicine one way or another. Krishna is liberating these personalities. So somebody who, like Arishtasura, this bull demon, or the Keshi demon, the giant horse, or what have you, all these shape-shifting wizards they're basically just sworn, completely sold out to killing Krishna and creating havoc. That's the kind of personalities they are. And they're not good people. Then when Krishna kills them, he liberates them from all of that burdensome condition of having that kind of self-conception, like I am this powerful body, I am these powers I've attained through my yogic perfection or my muscular strength or what have you, my magic, he saves them from that because it's all just a lie. And so he liberates them. And so it actually isn't mercy to let him just keep doing that to other people.
right.
And it isn't mercy to let him go on. He actually intercedes. They didn't earn it. They didn't do anything to deserve it, but he intercedes and gives them the association of the supreme person. And because they approach as demons, so he reciprocates like a fighter.
Yeah.
But it's still good. It's medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another example too of one aspect of those kinds of pastimes is, again, like we said, is rasa, like flavor. Krishna is enjoying different kinds of rasa. He's enjoying being a son. He's enjoying being like a naughty boy. He's enjoying being teasing boyfriend to a teasing girlfriend. He's enjoying being a friend. He's also enjoying getting in there and, fighting it out with some real hardcore devils. And actually, as we see in different parts of the Bhagavatam, the most intense and powerful demoniac persons are actually devotees in disguise. That the only people who can actually put up a real fight for him are devotees who take the role of demons just so he can have like a play fight, And that's also a kind of rasa. It's like, as you remember, when Keshi came, the horse, Krishna said, "How dare you?" He had a little speech. "How dare you come into Vrindavan and scare my friends and everybody like this? You want to fight? I'll give you a fight," right? He actually like has some like tough words. He talks a little smack. Have like a couple rounds. Krishna throws him down. The guy comes back. Krishna finishes him off. It's like that's part of life. You want to have a little bit of like, that's honestly what most of the sports is. It's just like, oh yeah, you think you're so tough coming to my house? We're gonna take you down, And Krishna gets to enjoy that. So why do we have that? Why do we get to have that? Krishna doesn't. So he's also just enjoying the pure form of that. It's another form of relationship that we can have in this world, like righteous anger, power, chivalry. It's a sub-rasa. It's one of the secondary rasas described in Nectar Devotion called virya, heroic or chivalrous rasa. It's like when you have a certain kind of like moral and chivalric strength, and you're like, I know I'm right here. And you want to come and like do the wrong thing? How dare you? I will punish you. That feeling that Krishna like shows that. And everyone gets to watch him be like, oh wow, the demigods cheer, and his friends are like, wow, he did it again. He like slew this giant horse. Is there anybody he can't? So that's the whole thing. That whole thing's happening too, while he's also giving one-on-one reciprocation to one particular demoniac living entity. He's also simultaneously just having a great time. So,
Shantanu, can I ask a question?
yeah.
Is it always true that maybe it's just Krishna in Vrindavan? Does every demon that he kills get liberated? Because isn't it in Canto 7, Prahlad's father isn't liberated, right? That one wasn't liberated. So not everybody he's killed was liberated, right? Or did I read that wrong?
Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad's father, is liberated.
Oh, he was liberated.
Yeah. So anytime the Lord comes, and if anybody leaves his body, even in his vicinity, like for example, everybody in the battlefield of Kurukshetra who died in the presence of Krishna received benefit. Whenever Krishna comes, even as any of his incarnations, if anybody dies, they get liberated from the material cycle. Krishna himself, personally, the son of Nanda Maharaj, the original personality of Godhead, when he kills somebody, he doesn't just liberate them, he often gives them a spiritual body. He brings them to a place where they actually have access to the spiritual world, which is something that not all of his incarnations will offer. It's something even more. For example, the Putana demon, if you remember way back to when Krishna was an infant, Putana tried to give him breast milk covered with deadly poison because
Right.
she was just into that kind of thing, killing babies. And she was not even an honest killer. She was like a hidden killer of babies. And Krishna killed her, but he didn't just liberate her. He actually gave her a spiritual form as a mother, a kind of mother or wet nurse, somebody in the mood of Vatsalya, somebody with a mood of mothership, because he thought, well, yeah, she tried to kill me, but she came like a mom. And so I'll take the good and I'll disregard the bad. And so the devotees look at that and they're like, this is unbelievable. Krishna sees the tiniest bit of service in this unbelievable person who's just covered with horrible, and he didn't just liberate her. Now you're free from all this false ego. He actually gave her a position in the spiritual world. And so that's something that his own incarnations, whether it's Nrsingadev or Ramachandra or different Vishnu forms, don't even do. But they do definitely offer liberation, at the least, whenever they apparently just kill somebody. So that is there. But Krishna goes above and beyond with offering a spiritual form and a relationship with him.
Okay, thank you. I must have read it wrong. I thought in Canto 7 there was something about somebody not
Yeah.
because he wasn't merciful.
Prahlad says to him, because Nrsingadev, after he kills Hiranyakashipu, the demon father, he says, take a benediction, Prahlad. And Prahlad says, I don't want anything from you. I didn't serve you to get anything back. I served you because I want to serve you. And Nrsingadev said, I know, but I want to give you something. And Prahlad said, if there's anything you can give me, I want that you please liberate my father. Even though he was such a horrible person, I want that you please liberate him. And Nrsingadev said, you don't even understand. Just because you took birth in his family, your entire family, I think it was 7 or 8 generations back, and that many generations forward, everybody automatically gets liberated as far as I'm concerned, because you're like this beautiful flower. The whole orchard is glorious because of you and smells wonderful. I will automatically consider your whole family liberated just because you appeared in it. That's his perspective as Nrsingadev. So he was already liberated. And spoiler alert, actually Hiranyakashipu is one of those examples of such an intense demon. He's a role played by a devotee, actually. He's actually a devotee who comes to play that role of hardcore demon. That's something we find out in the 3rd canto.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then he goes back to the spiritual world. All right. Let's start with today's readings. Who knows what we'll find out, but it'll be good. Chapter 39. Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Rakshama Krishna 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 Pahima Rama Rakava Rama Rakava Rama Rakava Rakshama Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahima. Krishna Book Chapter 39, Akrura's return journey and his vision of Vishnu Loka within the Yamuna River. Akrura was warmly received by Lord Krishna and Nanda Maharaj and offered a resting place for the night. In the meantime, the 2 brothers, Balaram and Krishna, went to take their supper. Akrura sat on his bed and began to reflect that all the desires he had contemplated while coming from Mathura to Vrindavan had been fulfilled. Lord Krishna, as the husband of the goddess of fortune, being pleased with his pure devotee, he can offer whatever the devotee desires. But the pure devotee does not ask for anything from the Lord for his personal benefit. After taking their supper, Krishna and Balaram came to bid good night to Akrura and ask him how Kamsa was dealing with their friends and relatives. Krishna then inquired into Kamsa's plans. The Supreme Personality of Godhead then informed Akrura that his presence was very welcome. He inquired from him whether all his relatives and friends were well and free from all kinds of ailments. Krishna stated that he was very sorry that his maternal uncle Kamsa was the head of the kingdom. He said that Kamsa was the greatest anomaly in the whole system of government and that they could not expect any welfare for the citizens while he ruled. Then Krishna said, my father has undergone much tribulation from my being his son. For this reason also he has lost many other sons. I think myself so fortunate that you have come as my friend and relative. My dear Uncle Akrura, please tell me the purpose of your coming to Vrindavan. After this inquiry, Akrura, who belonged to the dynasty of Yadu, explained the recent events in Mathura, including Kamsa's attempt to kill Vasudeva, the father of Krishna. He related the things which had happened after the disclosure by Narada that Krishna was the son of Vasudeva, hidden by Vasudeva in the house of Nanda Maharaj. Akrura narrated all the stories regarding Kamsa. He told how Narada had met Kamsa and how he himself was deputed by Kamsa to come to Vrindavan. Akrura explained to Krishna that Narada had told Kamsa all about Krishna's being transferred from Mathura to Vrindavan just after his birth and about his killing all the demons sent by Kamsa. Akrura then explained to Krishna the purpose of his coming to Vrindavan, to take him back to Mathura. After hearing of these arrangements, Balaram and Krishna, who were very expert in killing opponents, mildly laughed at the plans of Kamsa. They immediately informed Nanda Maharaj that Kamsa had invited all the cowherd men and boys to go to Mathura to participate in the ceremony known as Dhanur Yagya. Kamsa wanted them all to go there to participate in the function. On Krishna's word, Nanda Maharaj at once called for the cowherd men and asked them to collect milk and all kinds of milk products to present to the king in the ceremony. He also sent instructions to the police chief of Vrindavan to tell all the inhabitants about Kamsa's great Dhanur Yagya function and invite them to join. Nanda Maharaj informed the cowherd men that they would start the next morning. They therefore arranged for the cows and bulls to carry them all to Mathura. When the gopis heard that Akrura had come to take Krishna and Balaram away to Mathura, they became overwhelmed with anxiety. Some of them became so aggrieved that their faces turned black, and they began to breathe warmly and had palpitations of the heart. They discovered that their hair and clothes immediately loosened. Hearing the news that Krishna and Balaram were leaving for Mathura, others who were engaged in household duties stopped working, as if they had forgotten everything, like a person who is called forth to die and leave this world at once. Others immediately fainted due to separation from Krishna. Remembering his attractive smile and his talks with them, the gopis became overwhelmed with grief. They all remembered the characteristics of the personality of Godhead, how he moved within the area of Vrindavan, and how, with joking words, he attracted all their hearts. Thinking of Krishna and of their imminent separation from him, the gopis assembled together with heavily beating hearts. They were completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, and with tears falling from their eyes, they spoke as follows. O Providence, you are so cruel. It appears that you do not know how to show mercy to others. By your arrangement, friends contact one another, but before they can fulfill their desires, you separate them. This is exactly like a child's game that has no meaning. It is very abominable that you arrange to show us beautiful Krishna, whose bluish, curling hair beautifies his broad forehead and sharp nose, and who is always smiling to minimize all grief in this material world, and then arrange to separate him from us. O Providence, you are so cruel. But most astonishingly, you appear now as Akrura, which means not cruel. Akrura's name literally means not cruel. In the beginning, we appreciated your workmanship in giving us these eyes to see the beautiful face of Krishna, but now, just like a foolish creature, you are taking away our eyes by not letting us see Krishna here anymore. Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is also very cruel. He must always have new friends. He does not like to keep friendship for a long time with anyone. We gopis of Vrindavan, having left our homes, friends and relatives, have become Krishna's maidservants. But he is neglecting us and going away. He does not even look upon us, although we are completely surrendered unto him. Now all the young girls in Mathura will have the opportunity. They are expecting Krishna's arrival, and they will enjoy his sweet, smiling face and will drink its honey. Although we know that Krishna is very steady and determined, we are afraid that as soon as he sees the beautiful faces of the young girls in Mathura, he will forget himself. We fear he will become controlled by them, and he will forget us, for we are simple village girls. He will no longer be kind to us. We therefore do not expect Krishna to return to Vrindavan. He will not leave the company of the girls in Mathura. The gopis began to imagine the great functions in the city of Mathura. Krishna would pass through the streets, and the ladies and young girls of the city would see him from the balconies of their respective houses. Mathura city contained different communities known then as Dasharha, Bhoja, Andhaka, and Satvata. All these communities were different branches of the same family in which Krishna appeared, namely the Yadu dynasty. They were all expecting the arrival of Krishna. It had already been ascertained that Krishna, who was the resting place of the goddess of fortune and the reservoir of all pleasure and transcendental qualities, was going to visit Mathura city. The gopis then began to condemn the activities of Akrura. They stated that he was taking Krishna, who was more dear to them, more dear than the dearest to them, and who was the pleasure of their eyes. He was being taken from their sight without their being informed or solaced by Akrura. Akrura should not have been so merciless, but should have taken compassion on them. The gopis went on to say, the most astonishing feature is that Krishna, the son of Nanda, without consideration, has already seated himself on the chariot. From this it appears that Krishna is not very intelligent. Yet he may be very intelligent, but he is not very merciful. Not only Krishna, but all the cowherd men are so callous that they are already yoking the bulls and calves for the journey to Mathura. The elderly persons in Vrindavan are also merciless. They do not take our plight into consideration and stop Krishna's journey to Mathura. Even the demigods are very unkind to us. They are also not impeding his going to Mathura. The gopis prayed to the demigods to create some natural disturbance, such as a hurricane, storm, or heavy rainfall, so that Krishna could not go to Mathura. They then began to consider, despite our parents and guardians, we shall personally stop Krishna from going to Mathura. We have no alternative but to take this direct action. Everyone has gone against us to take away Krishna from our sight. Without him, we cannot live for a moment. The gopis thus decided to obstruct the passage through which the chariot of Krishna was supposed to pass. They began to talk among themselves. We have passed a very long night, which seemed only a moment, engaged in the rasa dance with Krishna. We looked at his sweet smile and embraced him and talked with him. Now, how shall we live even for a moment if he goes away from us? At the end of the day, in the evening, along with his elder brother Balaram, Krishna would return home with his friends. His face would be smeared with the dust raised by the hooves of the cows, and he would smile and play on his flute and look upon us so kindly. How shall we be able to forget him? How shall we be able to forget Krishna, who is our life and soul? He has already taken away our hearts in so many ways throughout our days and nights. And if he goes away, there is no possibility of our continuing to live. Thinking like this, the gopis became more and more grief-stricken at Krishna's leaving Vrindavan. They could not check their minds and began to cry loudly, calling the different names of Krishna. O Krishna! The different names of Krishna. Oh, dear Damodar, dear Madhava. The gopis cried all night before the departure of Krishna. As soon as the sun rose, Akrura finished his morning bath, got on the chariot, and started for Mathura with Krishna and Balaram. Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men got up on bullock carts after loading them with big earthen pots filled with yogurt, milk, ghee, and other milk products. And then they began to follow the chariot of Krishna and Balaram. In spite of Krishna's asking the gopis not to obstruct their way, they all surrounded the chariot and stood up to see Krishna with pitiable eyes. Krishna was very much affected upon seeing the plight of the gopis, but his duty was to start from Mathura, for this was foretold by Narada. Krishna therefore consoled the gopis. He told them that they should not be aggrieved. He was coming back very soon after finishing his business, but they could not be persuaded to disperse. The chariot, however, began to head west, and as it proceeded, the minds of the gopis followed it as far as possible. They watched the flag on the chariot as long as it was visible. Finally, they could see only the dust of the chariot in the distance. The gopis did not move from their places, but stood until the chariot could not be seen at all. They remained standing still, as if they were painted pictures. All the gopis decided that Krishna was not returning immediately, and with greatly disappointed hearts, they returned to their respective homes. Being greatly disturbed by the absence of Krishna, they simply thought all day and night about his pastimes, and thus derived some consolation. The Lord, accompanied by Akrura and Balaram, traveled in the chariot with great speed toward the bank of the Yamuna. Simply by taking a bath in the Yamuna, anyone can diminish the reactions of his sinful activities. Krishna and Balaram took their baths in the river and washed their faces. After drinking the transparent, crystal clear water of the Yamuna, they took their seats again on the chariot. The chariot was standing underneath the shade of big trees, and the two brothers sat down there. Akrura then took their permission to also take a bath in the Yamuna. According to Vedic ritual, after taking a bath in a river, one should stand at least half submerged and murmur the Gayatri mantra. While he was standing in the river, Akrura suddenly saw Balaram and Krishna within the water. He was surprised to see them there because he was so confident that they were sitting on the chariot. Confused, he immediately came out of the water and went to see where the boys were, and he was very much surprised to see that they were standing on the chariot as before. When he saw them on the chariot, he began to wonder whether he had mistakenly seen them in the water. He therefore went back to the river. This time he saw not only Balaram and Krishna there, but many of the demigods and all the Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas. They were all bowing down before the Lord. He also saw Lord Sheshanaga with thousands of hoods. Lord Sheshanaga was covered with bluish garments, and his necks were all white. The white necks of Sheshanaga appeared exactly like snow-capped mountains. On the coiled lap of Sheshanaga, Krishna was sitting very soberly with 4 hands. His eyes were like the reddish petals of the lotus flower. Sheshanaga is a 1,000-headed serpent. He's an expansion of Balaram, upon whom all the universes rest. So the Akrura is seeing him, and all the demigods. In other words, after returning to the Yamuna, Akrura saw Balaram turn into Sheshanaga, and Krishna turn into Mahavishnu. He saw the 4-handed Supreme Personality of Godhead, smiling very beautifully. The Lord was very pleasing to all, and was looking toward everyone with a merciful glance. He appeared beautiful with his raised nose, broad forehead, attractive ears, and reddish lips. His arms, reaching to the knees, were very strongly built. His shoulders were high, his chest was very broad, and his neck was shaped like a conch shell. His navel was very deep, and his abdomen was marked with 3 lines. His hips were broad and big, resembling those of a woman, and his thighs resembled the trunks of elephants. The other parts of his legs, the joints and lower extremities, were all very beautiful. The nails of his feet were dazzling, and his toes were as beautiful as the petals of the lotus flower. His helmet was decorated with very valuable jewels. There was a nice belt around his waist, and he wore a sacred thread across his broad chest. Bangles were on his arms. Bangles were on his hands, and armlets on the upper portions of his arms. He wore bells on his ankles. He possessed dazzling beauty, and his palms were like lotus flowers. He was further beautified by the different emblems of the Vishnu Murti, the conch shell, club, disc, and lotus flower, which he held in his 4 hands. His chest was marked with the particular signs of Vishnu, and he wore fresh flower garlands. All in all, he was very beautiful to look at. Akrura also saw his lordship surrounded by intimate associates like the 4 Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sananda, and Sanat Kumara, and other associates like Sunanda and Nanda, as well as demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva. The 9 great learned sages were there, and also devotees like Prahlad and Narada and the 8 Vasus. All were engaged in offering prayers to the Lord with clean hearts and pure words. After seeing the transcendental personality of Godhead, Akrura immediately became overwhelmed with joy and great devotion, and all over his body there was transcendental shivering. Although for the moment he was bewildered, he retained his clear consciousness and bowed down his head before the Lord. With folded hands and faltering voice, he began to offer prayers to the Lord. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 39th chapter of Krishna, Akrura's return journey and his vision of Vishnu Loka within the Yamuna River. Jai. Let's take any comments and questions or reflections. What did you hear in that chapter? Any reflections? From Akrura's arrival and taking Krishna and Balaram, the despondency of the gopis.
Yeah, I was thinking that, that line that if Krishna likes you, he gives you everything. If he loves you, he takes everything away.
Yeah.
And that the gopis are feeling that longing, but they realize if they keep on remembering, probably talking among them about all the different leelas, the rasa dance, everything that they've experienced, they'll keep Krishna alive in their hearts.
Yes, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
They stood there until they couldn't even see the dust flag from his chariot, and they left, and they were feeling despondent, but it's described that they were taking shelter, remembering and talking about him, and they felt some consolation from that.
Right.
And that separation, Krishna loved them so much that he separated himself. That separation, because of who they are and their love for him, it created the circumstances for them to deepen their meditation on him.
Yeah.
If it was some lower grade devotee, it may not create the same reaction. There may be some resentment, there may be some break, but their love for him is so pure that it just
started off that they were so envious. You know, the language of, you know, the women of Mathura are now going to be more
yeah.
important to him than us. But I think eventually they realized, you know, that's not the case. That he's doing this for our benefit.
Yes. There's several reasons. Narada Muni said he has to go. Kamsa's expecting him. Krishna was constantly targeted from the time he was born by demons. Powerful ones, shapeshifters, wizards, sorcerers and sorceresses, witches. And Krishna dispatched them easily, but there was amassing of forces. As we'll see in the next few chapters, there were entire armies that Krishna is going to deal with. And Vrindavan is a rural place. It's very simple. As long as he's in Vrindavan, Vrindavan's in danger. The cows, the girls, the friends, his parents, Vrindavan and everyone in it would always be targeted. So to take the heat off of them, Krishna left. And he told them, I'll be back very soon. He thought, I will take care of this Kamsa. Maybe one or two other persons have to be dispatched with, and I'll come back very quickly. And it ends up being longer.
Yeah.
But that's the Lila. But he has very good reasons. He has very good reasons for going. But not good enough for the gopis to be satisfied. Sundarananda.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you for the reading. I was wondering, Akrura seems to be performing an, how do I say it, a task that is not very appreciated, right?
Yeah, thankless.
Obviously, the gopis probably don't dislike him for that, for taking away Krishna from them. So then how does one do a service like that? I mean, at some point of time, could he have thought, oh, maybe I'm trying to hurt the gopis who are dearest to Krishna, so should I not be? Should I complain? Should I raise my, voice my opinion?
Well, it's necessary for someone to do what he did. And there's also indication later that Akrura has some temporary reaction come to him. And the acharyas explain one possibility is that the gopis were very displeased and cursed him, because even if he had to do what he had to do, he didn't have to do it without consideration of their feelings. So it's not that Akrura is like a conditioned soul and he made a mistake, but the way I've looked at it, the way I've had it explained to me is, sometimes we have to do something in Krishna consciousness that it's the right thing to do, and it's thankless, and we don't expect to be appreciated for it. But if it is difficult for others to tolerate and digest, especially if devotees' feelings are hurt, it's not a bad thing to pause and hold space for them and be like, listen, I know this kind of sucks. I hear your pain. I feel bad for you. I'm sorry. And Akrura didn't actually do that. So the acharyas point out that because he didn't do that, they may have had some grudge. So he had his reputation dragged through the mud later. There's a bit of a scandal in a few chapters in Mathura or Dvarka. I guess, anyway, we might get to that. But so that's a takeaway for us, is that sometimes you have to do a difficult thing. And it's not a bad thing to be a little bit sensitive. Don't just step on people's feelings just because it's the right thing to do, because they're all dear to Krishna. And even if it is the right thing to do, you want to show that you're not insensitive to the suffering of others. Because if you don't show that, then you can look like a villain even if you're not. That's why I've taken it. As somebody, speaking for myself, as somebody who has historically cared less about what other people think about me than maybe I should. So maybe there's room to be a little bit sensitive, especially when you're dealing with those who are very dear to Krishna, i.e. his devotees. Because Krishna very much cares about his devotees. So just being a little careful. That's all. That's all I have to offer on that.
Great, thank you. It was very helpful.
I just closed the window, but someone had their hand up. Who was that? Was it?
Stacy.
Yeah, go ahead. Great.
Sorry. I actually, oddly enough, we were talking about this chapter earlier today because there was a girlfriend of mine who we were on like a book reading call, and we were in this part of the book that, let's just say, how when we're reading Krishna book, and there's this part that's so we're all falling in love with Krishna in a different way. And when she joined, she started to tell us why she joined late, like in the middle of like, we were like in this ecstasy of Krishna. And she's like, well, when I commute, and she started going on and on and on. And someone sort of had to stop her. And like you said, like it was very gingerly. Her feelings were hurt because she told me later. And then I tried to sort of hold space for her just to feel. And so that, I guess this is kind of what I was feeling about here, where like, just because we become devotees doesn't mean, one, that we lose some of the things. I know I have things that I do that maybe rub people the wrong way. But the good news is that sometimes we have people that love us enough to tell us, but
Yeah.
in a way that's loving and that can help us grow.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of like purification around that. I mean, most of our advancement in Krishna consciousness, most of the time we spend is with our peers. It's not really like just giving shelter to our juniors or receiving mercy from our superiors. There's some of that, but most of it is with our peers. And so that's where like the stuff comes to the surface that, is a remnant of our karma, our conditioning, whatever. And so there's like in a rock tumbler, these things are coming in contact with each other, and it's that friction that creates a smoothness over time. So that can come up in the association of devotees. And so the way that looks and the specific things is different for everybody because we all have our conditioning. But the general upshot is that it's good to not take offense. And it's good to not take it personally when other people have to give us feedback. Because it's not easy to facilitate or manage anything. As soon as you take responsibility for something, you have to manage the group experience, right? And as soon as you're managing the group experience, you have to manage people's emotions. And so I always try to remember, as soon as I'm in a group or in a situation where someone else is managing something, I automatically give them credit because they're taking a responsibility that I'm not taking. They're actually taking on trouble for the sake of pushing on some opportunity for us to serve jointly. And it may then result in my feeling like, oh, like maybe, my feelings are hurt. And so I try to not take offense because I know for myself as somebody who tries to take responsibility in management situations, it's not easy. So then like sometimes you're going to be overlooked or minimized or whatever as a junior, or in some situation you may be like have to take the role of like speaking the unfortunate or challenging truth to someone else. And when that happens enough on both sides, you learn to not take offense yourself and to try to like not react from your own thing when it comes up with other people. But one way or another, yeah, that's part of the process. It's not actually random. It's part of what Krishna is having us go through. And
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, that's basically it.
But yeah, I was gonna say, like, so many things, like a lot of these leelas are learnings for us. They're trying to teach us sort of, I find, for me at least, they teach me a lot of different ways. And I was actually that person today, and it was like I felt horrible, but I love this person. And like it actually opened up the flower to we all ended up like, oh, let's all unblock our screens, let's see each other, let's talk, let's show love, and it actually turned out to be this really wonderful moment because it is coming because we have this kind of, not a comfort maybe, but maybe a comfort of like, I feel really comfortable that I could share something to any one of you guys and feel like, there would be a hand put out. And that's, I think, something really special that we as devotees have of Krishna.
Yeah, that's really irreplaceable. If the devotees have relationships of love and trust with each other, then that's where it can be vulnerable, and that's where there can be growth. If there isn't that love and trust, then as soon as there's like direction or guidance, it can be seen as like, well, why are you singling me out? Or it's just a power trip or whatever. Because, you know, we may have some experience with that in your life, but when that love and trust is there, then there can be like challenging or difficult feedback, and it can be received, and we can grow. So yeah. Thanks. Any other reflections from this chapter before we go into chapter 40? Okay. So chapter 40 is Akrura's prayers. And this is a really special chapter in a way because, I mean, they're all special. It's described that different devotees exemplify different angas or limbs, aspects of devotional service. So for example, Parikshit Maharaj, he asks the questions of Shukadeva Goswami, which elicit the speaking of Bhagavatam. And he sits and listens for 7 days, fasting to death, because he knows he's going to die in 7 days. He doesn't eat or drink. He's just hearing the Bhagavatam. So his hearing, his Shravanam, is considered to be like exemplary. Shukadeva Goswami's Kirtanam, his speaking of Krishna Katha, is considered to be exemplary. You know, Hanuman, his mood of service, his seva, is considered to be exemplary. Arjuna's friendship, right? Exemplary. Things like that. Actually, Akrura is considered to be very exemplary in his standard of prayers. His prayers are considered to be top-notch. So we're going to read them now. And if you want to get a sense of the depth of the philosophy and realization of his prayers, you can look into the Bhagavatam chapter associated with this. It's Canto 10, chapter 40. This is chapter 40, Krishna book, so it's Canto 10, chapter 40. And you can read those verses, verse by verse, or any selected ones with word for word translations and purports by the servants of Srila Prabhupada, who picked up the commentary after Srila Prabhupada left the planet. And there's more detail there, but we're going to jump in with the Krishna book, chapter 40 now, Akrura's prayers. Akrura offered his prayers as follows. My dear Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you are the supreme cause of all causes and the original inexhaustible personality, Narayana. From your navel a lotus flower grows, and from that lotus, Brahma, the creator of this universe, is born. Since Brahma is the cause of this universe, you are the cause of all causes. The elements of this cosmic manifestation, earth, water, fire, air, ether, ego, and the total material energy, as well as nature, the marginal energy, the living entities, the mind, the senses, the sense objects, and the demigods who control the affairs of the cosmos, all are produced from your body. You are the supersoul of everything, but no one knows your transcendental form. Everyone within this material world is influenced by the modes of material nature. Even demigods like Lord Brahma, being covered by the influence of material nature, do not exactly know your transcendental existence beyond the cosmic manifestation of the three modes of material nature. Great sages and mystics worship you as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original cause of all living entities, all cosmic manifestation, and all demigods. They worship you as all-inclusive. Some of the learned Brahmanas also worship you by observing Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. They offer different kinds of sacrifices in the names of different gods. And there are others also who are fond of worshiping transcendental knowledge. They are very peaceful after giving up all kinds of material activities. They engage in the sacrifice known as Jnana Yagya, the philosophical search for you. There are also devotees, known as Bhagavatas, who worship you as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After being properly initiated in the method of Pancharatra, they decorate their bodies with tilaka and engage in worshipping your different forms of Vishnumurti. There are others also known as Shaivites, followers of different acharyas, who worship you in the form of Lord Shiva. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that worship of demigods is also indirectly worship of the Supreme Lord. But such worship is not orthodox, because the worshipable Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Demigods such as Brahma and Shiva are incarnations of the material qualities, which are also emanations from the body of Narayana. Actually, there was no one existing before the creation except Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. the worship of a devotee is not on the same level as worship of Narayana. Akrura said, although the minds of those who are devotees of the demigods are fixed on a particular demigod, because you are the super soul of all living entities, including the demigods, worship of the demigods indirectly goes to you. Sometimes, after flowing down from the mountains during the rainy season, small rivers fail to reach the sea. Some reach the sea and some do not. Similarly, the worshippers of the demigods may or may not reach you. There is no guarantee. Their success depends on the strength of their worship. According to the Vedic principles, when a worshipper worships a particular demigod, he also conducts some ritual for Narayana, Yagyeshvara. Yagyeshvara means the Lord of the sacrifice, master of the sacrifice. For as it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, the demigods cannot fulfill the desires of their worshippers without the sanction of Narayana or Krishna. The exact words used in the Bhagavad Gita are Mayaiva Vihitan Hitan, which mean that the demigods can award some benediction after being authorized by the Supreme Lord. When a demigod worshipper comes to their senses, they can reason as follows. The demigods can offer benedictions only after being empowered by the Supreme Lord, so why not worship the Supreme Lord directly? Such a worshipper of the demigods may come to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but others, who take the demigods as all in all, cannot reach the ultimate goal. Just some comments on that. So, as we're hearing in this section of the prayers, Akrura is pointing out that Krishna is the source of everything, which means that it's not like my God versus your God, you know? There's no such conception. Akrura is beginning by dispensing with any kind of sectarianism. That here is a supreme person who is himself the personal expression of that very source who manifested the universe and everything in it, and is perceivable from different perspectives in this way and that way and this way and that way, right? Krishna says in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, some people worship me as the universe. Some people, they worship the multiplicity of demigods who are coming from me, and they take that as supreme. Some become focused on the oneness that is there in this universe because everything is coming from a source. They consider themselves to be that supreme. We're all one, and they focus on that oneness, and they like kind of maybe even worship their own self. Some will engage in the philosophical pursuit of knowledge. They'll study scripture, and they'll very scrutinizingly consider what is and is not spirit, what is matter, what is spirit. And that is their worship, that is their yagya, the sacrifice of knowledge. They give their attention, they give their intelligence. Some will give their activities to the Supreme. You know, they just try to be pious. And one way or another, everybody, as Krishna says, everybody is following my path in all respects. That it's all part of that supreme source. So there is more complete and less complete worship, but everybody, you know, he's got the whole world in his hands, as the song goes. There's no separate reality. So Akrura, because of his deep vision, he actually sees all this, and he expresses it in such deep, philosophically sound realization. Let's see, where are we? Akrura continued to pray, my dear Lord, the whole world is filled with the three modes of nature, material modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. Everyone within this material world is covered by these modes, from Lord Brahma down to the non-moving plants and trees. My dear Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you are beyond the influence of the three modes. Except for you, everyone is being carried away by the waves of these modes. My dear Lord, fire is your mouth, the earth is your feet, the sun is your eye, and the sky is your navel, and the directions are your ears. Space is your head. The demigods are your arms, and the oceans and seas are your abdomen, and the winds and air are your strength and vitality. All the plants and herbs are the hairs on your body. The clouds are the hair on your head. The mountains are your bones and nails. The days and nights are the blinking of your eyelids. Prajapati, the progenitor, is your genitals, and the rains are your semen. My dear Lord, all living entities, including different grades of demigods and different grades of overlords, kings, and other living entities, are residing in you as parts and parcels of the big unit. One cannot know you by experimental knowledge. One can simply understand your transcendental existence to be like the great ocean, in which different grades of living entities are included, or like the udumbara fruit, out of which small mosquitoes come. My dear Lord, whatever eternal forms and incarnations you accept, when you appear in this world, are meant for relieving the living entities of their ignorance, illusion, and lamentation. All people, therefore, can appreciate the incarnations and pastimes of your Lordship and eternally glorify your activities. No one can estimate how many forms and incarnations you have, nor can anyone estimate the number of universes that are existing within you. Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the fish incarnation, who appeared in the ocean of devastation, although your Lordship is the cause of all causes. Let me offer my respectful obeisance unto the Hayagriva incarnation, who killed the two demons, Madhu and Kaitaba. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appeared as the gigantic tortoise that held up the great mountain Mandara, and who appeared as the boar that rescued the earth planet, which had fallen into the water of the Garbhotaka. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto your Lordship, who appeared as Nrsingadev to deliver all kinds of devotees from the fearful condition of atheistic atrocities. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appeared as Vamanadeva and covered the three worlds simply by extending your lotus feet. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appeared as the Lord of the Bhrigus, in order to kill all the infidel administrators of the world. That's Parashurama. And let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appeared as Lord Rama to kill demons like Ravana. You are worshipped by all devotees as the chief of the Rakhu dynasty, Lord Ramachandra. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appear as Lord Vasudeva, Lord Sankarshana, Lord Pradyumna, and Lord Aniruddha. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appear as Lord Buddha, to bewilder the atheistic and demoniac. No, he said this before Buddha actually appeared. And let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who appear as Kalki, who is yet to appear actually in this age, who appear as Kalki to chastise the so-called royal order, degraded to the abominable condition of the Mlechas, who are below the jurisdiction of Vedic regulative principles. So we can see here, like, one detail that I appreciate is Akrura is showing that for the devotees, the study of Krishna's incarnations and his Leela actually is like the deepening of relationship, because this is the same person coming as Vamanadev, coming as Nrsingadev, coming as Parshuram, coming as Nrsingadev, coming as Ramachandra, coming as Kurma, Buddha, coming as Kalki. And in this context, for this reason, for this devotee, because the devotees prayed for him, in this social situation, in this form, with this mood, always different. But these are aspects. Just like people will have different attire, they'll have different moods, they'll have different occasions, they'll have different paraphernalia, and they have different sides to them. And Krishna is very rich. So Akrura he's finding he's finding like things to appreciate about all these aspects of the Lord, and he's remembering that. So this is like, you know, kind of one of the things we're meant to get from our reading is we're actually just, yeah, that Lord in our heart who's hearing our prayers, who's there, who's witnessing us, that we have like a little glimpse of here and there. That's the same Lord who teased Radharani. That's the same Lord who, you know, stole butter. That's the same Lord who did this thing that Ramachandra did, and Nrsingadev. When we hear these things, like we're getting permission and access to actually fall in love with Krishna a little more. These are all deep expressions of not just like, you know, Akrura's memorization capacity, but his love. He loves Krishna, therefore he knows all these things and remembers them.
It's like it's reading this book,
Yeah.
getting to know all the stories and the pastimes.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything before, but now it's so different.
Yeah.
Hearing
it's a very shallow kind of thing if you don't know anything about your supposed beloved.
Yeah. It's very important.
But dear Lord, everyone within this material world is conditioned by your illusory energy. Under the impression of false identification and false possession, everyone is transmigrating from one body to another on the path of fruitive activities and their reactions. My dear Lord, I am no exception among these conditioned souls. I am falsely thinking myself happy in possessing my home, wife, children, estate, property, and friends. In this way, I am acting as if in a dreamland, because none of these are permanent. I am a fool to be always absorbed in thoughts of such things, accepting them as permanent truths. My dear Lord, due to my false identification, I have accepted as permanent everything which is non-permanent, such as this material body, which is not spiritual and is the source of all kinds of miserable conditions. Being bewildered by such concepts of life, I am always absorbed in thoughts of duality. And I have forgotten you, who are the reservoir of all transcendental pleasure. I am bereft of your transcendental association, being just like a foolish creature who leaves a watering hole covered by water-nourished vegetation and goes in search of water in the desert. The conditioned souls want to quench their thirst, but they do not know where to find water. They give up the spot where there is actually a reservoir of water and run into the desert where there is no water. My dear Lord, I am completely incapable of controlling my mind, which is now driven by the unbridled senses and is attracted by fruitive activities and their results. Therefore, my intelligence is very miserly. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of in the desert, animals will sometimes wander and they'll see water and they'll chase after it, but it's a mirage and they'll die. Because the heat, you can see on a road at this time of year. If you're coming up a rise and the road is there, the heat reflecting off the road is such that it looks exactly like water until you reach the angle where it doesn't anymore. So the material world is like that. You think, oh, there it is. There's what I'm looking for. That'll make me happy. And you chase and you chase and you chase until you drop dead in the desert. You don't actually get what you're looking for. But Akrura is saying it's like leaving civilization to wander looking for water in the desert. You already had water. That sustenance, that nourishment is in the heart. Krishna is there. We already have a relationship with him. We're not actually out here forging something new. We already have a relationship. We just ran away from home. We forgot about him. We're trying to unforget. So it's this thing of Akrura, as the devotees do, there's this consistent thing of there's deep humility. Akrura is not just noting Krishna's position. He's noting his own. I'm such a fool that I sometimes think I can be happy without you. And this is actually a liberated soul. Akrura is not a conditioned soul. He's actually a liberated soul, but as part of his Leela, he's like us. He's relatable. So sometimes when we're very fortunate, we can look at ourselves and be like, wow, boy, I'm really confused sometimes. And I think I can actually be happy in this world. And so these prayers are very relatable because they include us. They include the position of a confused living entity who's like, oh, that. If I just had that, I'll be happy. If I just had that level of respect, that attention, that new car, that substance, that sex, that money, whatever it may be, oasis. When person after person who's chased after it is left behind a pile of bones in the desert, nothing else to show for it. So this is also another aspect of the beauty of Akrura's prayers, is that he takes the position of every conditioned soul and he speaks from that position. He's not just like this angel coming and he's so unapproachable and he's such a pure devotee. He's speaking as if he's like every one of us. My dear Lord, your lotus feet cannot be appreciated by any person in the conditioned stage of material existence, but somehow or other, I've come near your lotus feet, and I consider this to be your causeless mercy upon me. You can act in any way because you are the supreme controller. I can thus understand that when a person becomes eligible to be delivered from the path of repeated birth and death, it is only by your causeless mercy that he comes nearer to your lotus feet and becomes attached to your devotional service. Akrura fell down before the Lord and said, my dear Lord, you are transcendental, eternal. Your transcendental eternal form is full of knowledge. Simply by concentrating one's mind upon your form, one can understand in full knowledge everything that be. because you are the original source of all knowledge. You are the supreme powerful, possessing all kinds of energies. You are the supreme Brahman and the supreme person, supreme controller and master of the material energies. That's another point. All this philosophy is there not because Akrura is so learned. It's because he is so Krishna conscious. Simply by concentrating one's mind upon your form, one can understand in full knowledge everything that be, because you are the original source of all knowledge. Because he's so conscious of Krishna, that light is cast on the whole material creation. He's like actually able to see with open eyes. You are the supreme powerful, possessing all kinds of energies. You are the supreme Brahman and the supreme person, supreme controller and master of the material energies. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you are Vasudeva, the resting place of all creation. You are the all-pervading supreme personality of Godhead, and you are also the supreme soul residing in everyone's heart and giving direction to act. Now, my Lord, I'm completely surrendered unto you. Please give me your protection. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 40th chapter of Krishna, Prayers by Akrura. Hari Bol. Okay. Any more? Let's get any questions, comments, reflections on that chapter before we press pause on this week's readings.
I just feel like those last paragraphs just like summed up his prayer, summed up humanity and everything that we're struggling with.
They really do.
It really is. Every
Devotees' prayers are actually incredible. They're incredible lessons, and they're very powerful philosophy. There's a reason why. There's actually science to the prayers. In fact, there was a series of lectures by His Grace Radhika Ramana Prabhu, who's a great Sanskritist, a very advanced devotee. He got a PhD when he was like 17 years old from Oxford or something. He's like a brilliant devotee. He's got a professorship and a head of departmentship in Utah State University. I forget. He gives a series of lectures, like 2 or 3 lectures at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. You can look him on YouTube. I think I may have linked to them before. Yeah. The science of the prayers in the Bhagavatam. And he talks about how when he first started hearing Bhagavatam, which he did when he was like a child, because his mom homeschooled him and taught him from Shastra when he was really young. And he used to think like, I really like this whole Krishna killing demons thing and the pastimes. Why all these prayers? Like, come on. You know? And then when he got older, he started to realize there's actually this pattern. There's actually great spiritual truths. And one of them is that the devotees, before they start getting into their specific personal relationship with Krishna and their rasa, they always begin with tattva. They always begin with things as they are before they get into like the emotions that Krishna is reciprocating in the mood of their relationship with them. It's like, this is the world. You are above the modes of nature. This is time. Here's a cycle of reincarnation. Here I am stuck in it. Here's everybody else like running around drunk and mad from body to body. And they, with their spiritual vision, paint such an incredibly beautiful and powerful picture that it's so important to hear that. And it's like a philosophy, sociology, religion, cultural lesson in a few words. The prayers are actually incredibly potent. And it's like down to the man, down to the woman, down to the animal, if you count like Gajendra and any kind of living entity that's praying to Krishna, always starts with tattva across the board. And so it may not feel as fun or like cool or like maybe like memorable, but it is such powerful medicine. And you could create a curriculum of human philosophy just from the prayers of the gopis, Akrura, Arjuna. He has prayers in the 11th chapter Bhagavad Gita. I mean, Prabhupada's prayers, like there's so many unbelievable prayers. Queen Kunti's prayers, Brahma's prayers. We read Canto 10, chapter 13, Brahma's prayers. Prahlad's prayers, the gopis praying in the absence of Krishna. Prahlad's prayers. You have Dhruva Maharaj's prayers, Canto 4, 3, 4. So many. So it's like, it's a great wealth, actually. It's an incredible thing. So well noted. Thank you. More reflections. Anything you heard?
I really love the idea that in whatever form I'm able to at the time of my life worship, it's okay that if it comes that I worship this form of God in this way or that way. Eventually, through continued worship, I might see the totality, but this entry point of where I might have to enter is just open. Go ahead, whatever.
Yeah.
And it also where you had pointed out that he was saying his prayers before Lord Brahma, Lord Buddha came, or the other avatars, that
Okay.
that really tells you that this is a realized soul, that this is that he was a devotee, and that he had a vision that was deeper than just the demon that Kamsa thought he was sending.
Yeah,
These guys are all fooling Kamsa the whole time.
The whole time.
Yeah.
Narada Muni, who instigates, accelerates the pastimes by, hey, Kamsa, that Krishna guy, he's actually the one who's trying to kill you. Like, he's over there in Vrindavan. Narada Muni shows this too. Like, in his pastimes, he's what's called in Sanskrit Trikalagya. He knows past, present, and future because of his transcendental vision. So he knows what Krishna is going to do, because there's a way in which he's granted that vision to a certain extent. Although when it happens, he's still like flabbergasted and amazed. And yeah, Akrura is showing that too. Like, you're going to come as Buddha, you're going to come as Kalki. There's this cyclical way in which age after age Krishna does these things, although it's always fresh and unique. But the devotees with their transcendental vision can actually see that. And if you study Shastra, you can actually learn that too. Like, we know the next incarnation is Kalki. We know approximately when he's going to come. It's in a couple 100,000 years. We know the name of his mother. We know the village he's going to take birth in. We know his purpose. So you can also, even if you don't have that vision, you can study Bhagavatam, which should also inform for you, like, when someone comes, if someone comes and says, like, I'm God, you can be like, you're not due. Yeah. And by the way, where's your universal form? Because you showed that to Arjuna, so, don't write checks your body can't cash. Yeah. Devotees aren't fooled. Yeah. Any other reflections, comments, or questions, or anything that stood out? Okay. Well, Akrura has taken Krishna away. The Vrindavan devotees are experiencing deep separation. And Akrura has uttered his famous prayers, and we're letting them echo in our heart. And next week, we're going to continue with chapters 41 and onward. Krishna is going to enter Mathura, change of venue. There's going to be this wrestling ceremony pastime thing where Kamsa is like, he's so sure of himself. Oh yeah, I got this giant elephant Kuvalayapita. He's gonna flatten Krishna and Balaram, and if somehow they get free, I got the toughest, absolute roughest guys that are gonna rock him. So Krishna is gonna throw down. It's gonna be a rumble in the jungle. And there's some beautiful scenes there too coming up. Although we're not in Vrindavan, don't think that it's anything less than amazing. You're gonna have Mathura. So let's pause there. And so for next week, read 39 and 40. If you want to get a deeper dive into prayers and the science of prayers, check out Akrura's prayers in chapter 40, Bhagavatam, Canto 10. If you want to read ahead, read chapter 41 and onwards. And please give any reflection on, Akrura's prayers, the nature of prayers, anything you heard. There were so many beautiful realizations this week in WhatsApp. You can also talk about separation, the gopis, Vrindavan. That's very poignant and very much, like happening for us, or anything else that comes up. We're always super eager for your reflections on pastimes and philosophy. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna Book Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatrupyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you to the YouTube crew holding it down, keeping the transcendental vibration going. Jai.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Night.
Thank you. Hare